In this video, I'm going to talk about intermittent fasting if you have an eating disorder. If you want to control what you eat, control your life, and control your body, then hit the subscribe button so you never miss a video. Intermittent fasting is all the rage these days. It can regulate your appetite, help you lose weight, control your insulin levels, make you healthier, make you live 180 years. Okay, the last part isn't true. It's not going to make you live 180 years. There are a lot of claims about intermittent fasting. Some of it is hyperbole. Some of it is actually true. As a little confession, I fasted up to 5 days before. By the end of the fast, I was famished, exhausted, and I was definitely ready to eat something and restore my energy levels again. That's for a different story. Don't get me wrong, intermittent fasting can be very healthy. It can be a positive addition to your life. And as far as I know, it hasn't made anybody less healthy. But like anything in health and fitness, there are a lot of claims, and sometimes we have a little bit too much enthusiasm for the latest trend. If you have an eating disorder and you're considering intermittent fasting, then watch this video. As somebody who has had a long history of eating disorders and who has fasted before, I think I'm well qualified to talk about this. My first suggestion to you is try a fast when you're really busy. I like to do it when I travel. I've made a video about traveling and being healthy when you travel. And I find it really easy to do that when I'm going through security lines and boarding planes and making connections and renting cars. The day just naturally goes really fast. It's not like I'm sitting in front of a computer all day and it's like tick tock, tick tock. That's when it's really hard. So try fasting if you've never done it before, when you're really busy and you're not even noticing the time. Travel days are the perfect day to do that because the food in the airport is usually really low quality, or it's filled with a ton of added oil and sugar. You're sitting most of the day anyway, so you're not burning a lot, and it's just a really unhealthy experience overall. If you keep your stomach empty, you'll probably avoid the horrible public bathrooms too. The other advantage too is if you have a really turbulent flight, you have nothing in your stomach and you're probably not gonna get sick. Even if you do get sick, there's nothing in there to get rid of. My second tip for you is to start with short fasts and then progress from there. Most of us are used to going 8-10 hours without eating anyway. When you hear intermittent fasting, what you're really hearing is stuff like 16, 18, even 20 hours. I've seen eminent doctors talk about going 20 hours a day, each day without eating, and they only eat in a 4-hour window. You don't have to go that far. A typical intermittent fast is usually something like 16-8 or 18-6. Take your pick. That means if you stop eating at 6 p.m. at night, that you wait until 10 a.m. or even 12 p.m. the next day to break your fast. Really, all you're doing is waiting several hours to eat breakfast. I don't necessarily do intermittent fasting because it's healthier. I do it because I like to be productive and focused in the morning. I really don't want to think about what I'm going to eat. I really don't want to think about making breakfast and interrupting my morning routine. I like to wake up, work out, do something that's really important, do something that I don't necessarily want to do so it's out of the way, and that way I can just focus on creative tasks. If you're worried about low blood sugar, I wouldn't worry about that at all. Obviously, everybody's different. If you're type 1 diabetic, type 2 diabetic, then you have different nutritional concerns. I'm not qualified to talk about that because I'm not an endocrinologist by any measure. But if you don't have any of those kind of conditions that affect your blood sugar or your insulin, then you're going to be okay. You're not going to be confused. You're not going to drop dead. You're not going to be having hallucinations because you've gone 10-12 hours without eating. The thing about the body is that it's designed for prolonged fasting, if you think about it. Until recently, food was actually hard to obtain. You went long hours without getting it. Human body is designed to fast. It's designed to hold on to excess calories, store it in the body fat, because it's actually expecting another fast in the future. That's why humans are so efficient at storing fat, and that's actually a really good thing, because without that ability, we probably wouldn't be here as a species right now. Body fat really benefited our great-great-great-great-great-grandparents. Only until recently has it become a liability. So don't shake your fist at God and ask him why it's so hard to lose fat. The fact is, that's a really good feature of human physiology. If I haven't eaten in the morning and it's 10 or 11, my stomach starts growling, I know that my stomach is empty, and that's a really good thing. Waiting longer to eat breakfast means that you're actually responding to your appetite more, and that's one of the biggest advantages of water fasting, is that you actually eat when you're hungry. The problem with people with eating disorders is that For too long, they have ignored their natural hunger cues. Binge eaters just ignore their hunger mechanism and they keep eating and eating and eating even though their brains are telling them to stop. Their bodies are screaming at them to stop. Anorexics kind of do the opposite. Even though they're hungry all the time, they just ignore it because they really want to be skinny and they think they're fat and they think that anything they eat will turn into fat and they'll be unhealthy and they'll die. Clearly, there's something wrong with that kind of thinking, but they need help too. When you break your fast at 10, 11, or even noon, you're probably going to be hungry, but you're not going to be as hungry as you think. You're not going to be ravenously hungry. Maybe after a 24 or 36 hour fast you might be, but even in my experience, I feel more fatigued than I feel hungry. My perfect morning routine consists of something like this. I wake up, I go to the gym, I do some work, either creative time or I see patients, and I really just try to be as productive as I can in the morning. That is my natural ebb and flow. I'm more productive, more focused, and more energetic in the morning. I naturally wake up at 5. I'm an early riser, and that's when I try to get things done. I try to save all of the menial tasks like eating and appointments for later in the day when I'm not as creative and I can't focus as well. My advice, start with 12 hours, progress to 14, then 16, then 18. You don't need to turn this into an obsession, which is another point. Intermittent fasting can become an obsession. You don't have to intermittent fast every day to get the benefits. Even if you just do it once a week or twice a week, you can still get the benefit. Some days I like to do a full 36-hour fast. That means I stop eating one night, I skip the entire day the next day, and then I eat early morning the day after tomorrow. That makes it 36 hours. I have survived many of those. I have survived 3, 4, 5 day fast. I've heard of people doing 13 days, 21 days. If you're gonna do a prolonged water fast like that, make sure that you're keeping the expenditure low and you're just sitting most of the time. You're not gonna be very compelled to do anything physical if you've gone that long without eating. If you have a social event or you're going out with family in the morning and it's before your typical breakfast, let's say you go out at 9 o'clock and you're not used to eating breakfast until 11 a.m. That's okay. You can go one day without intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is not all or nothing. You can do it some days of the week. You can do it all days of the week. You can just do it one day a week. Even if you just did it one day a week, you'd probably get a lot of benefit. I think one of the best things about intermittent fasting is that it helps regulate appetite. You only eat when you're really hungry. And if you did that all the time, you wouldn't have an eating disorder. The definition of an eating disorder is deliberately ignoring your appetite mechanism consistently over time. You ignore it so much that you actually cause harm to your body. You do it so much that you actually cause harm to your body. Naturally responding to your appetite is actually really healthy, and it's a sign of a normal eater. If you have an eating disorder, your goal should be to listen to your appetite all day, every day. My next point is, if you're really hungry one morning, then go ahead and eat something. You don't need to turn this into a god, because it's not. If you don't intermittent fast every day for the rest of your life, you're going to be just fine. Intermittent fasting is not a prerequisite for a long, healthy life. Is it a positive addition? Absolutely, but it's not something that you absolutely have to do. Drop this absolute line of thinking that you already have, and you'll be a lot healthier. How should you break the fast? I have broken many fasts with, you guessed it, a binge. It's probably the least healthy way to break a fast. I don't recommend it. If your stomach is like this big after the end of the fast and then it's like this, it's not very pleasant. You're not gonna like it and you're gonna hate fasting. I think one of the best ways to break a fast is with something light like fruits or vegetables. I've broken a fast with a sweet potato, and I'm telling you, that's one of the best meals that I've ever had. If you want to make food taste really good, just go a long time without eating. Something as simple and bland as rice and beans starts to look really appetizing at that point. It's been said before that appetite is the best ingredient. Don't eat something that's really high in oil and sugar. Try to avoid the processed food. You don't necessarily need to drink juice at the end of a fast. Trust me, at the end of a fast, you want something more than juice, even though that will help restore energy and blood sugar levels. But don't go overboard either. You need to eat something that satiates your hunger, but that's also not so much that you overload your system. I remember going 3 days without eating, and I broke my fast with just a couple of sweet potatoes. And you know what? I felt great after just 2 sweet potatoes. I felt energized, and I also felt like my hunger had been satiated. You don't need a ton of food to break a fast. I know it's really tempting to do that because you feel like you you've accomplished something and you feel like you deserve it, and you need all of that food to restore your energy. The truth is, you only need a little bit. Another point is you don't have to necessarily drink plain water like this thing during your fast. If it's too much for you at first, you can do flavored water. I know vitamin water has the 0 calorie type. I don't know if they make Sobe anymore. I haven't bought that in years, but that was like Pepsi's healthy flavored water with vitamins or whatever. Some people do diet soda. Diet soda has its own problems, but it technically has no calories, so it's still a fast. You can also do tea with some Splenda or something just to make it a little more palatable. Personally, I don't feel like it's a real fast unless it's just plain water. I used to do a lot of the flavored liquids, but now I just do plain water. That way I feel like I've accomplished something and I don't have to buy anything. I don't have to worry about any of the chemicals in these other products, and it's also a lot cheaper if you just drink plain water. But if you're just starting, then you can try flavored water to make it a little easier. Just remember that intermittent fasting is just a tool. It is not the end-all be-all of health. I know there is a lot of talk about intermittent fasting. There are probably 100,000 videos on it, tons of articles. Everybody thinks it's the holy grail of health. It's not. In fact, you should consider not doing it at all. It is absolutely not necessary to live a long, healthy life. You don't necessarily need it to lose weight. You don't necessarily need to do it to be happy, healthy, and strong. Remember, intermittent fasting is not a lifestyle, it's just a hack. Some days it works better than others. If you miss a day, don't feel bad about it. You don't have to do it every day. You can do it once or twice a week. Like I said, try it on the busiest days because that's probably an inconvenient time to eat anyway. Another time to do intermittent fasting is at conferences when you're on your feet all the time. Another great time to do intermittent fasting is at a conference or a show when you're on your feet and you're meeting new people and you're walking around and there's really nothing healthy to eat anyway. You can skip the lunch, you can skip the cafeteria. The food at conference centers is usually not the best. It resembles ballpark food more than anything. And at the end of the conference, when you're tired, you can go back to your hotel room and just chill. Conferences go by so fast, they're a lot of fun, you're meeting new people, and it's just one thing after another. You really don't think about food anyway. Another great time to do intermittent fasting is on a long road trip. If you're on the road for a long time, then you can skip the snacks, you can skip the finger food, skip the gas station food, skip the fast food, and just keep driving. I remember driving from California to Texas, and I drove over 25 hours. I didn't eat anything, and I felt great when I got there. No, I didn't fall asleep at the wheel, and I arrived just fine. A lot of people say that insulin is the biggest reason why intermittent fasting works so well. I disagree. Insulin is not the big boogeyman that they're telling you it is. Insulin is just one of many hormones that regulates body fat storage and appetite. I think right now we're in that insulin phase where everything is about insulin, insulin this, insulin that, keep your insulin low. Well, here's the thing. If you're a binge eater and you go 23 hours a day without eating and you binge for that 1 hour, are you necessarily healthier? Probably not. Even though your insulin was low all of those 23 hours leading up to the binge. Intermittent fasting will only help you lose weight if it creates a caloric deficit. Yes, it's all about calories again, hate to break it to you. But if you're in caloric deficit and you're doing intermittent fasting, you're probably going to be really healthy. Intermittent fasting is usually synonymous with the keto diet. Doesn't necessarily have to be. You can be vegan, you can be omnivore, vegetarian, whatever you want to be, and you can still get the benefits of intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting helps people lose weight because it helps them create a caloric deficit. And it helps them do that because it helps them regulate their appetite and pay attention to their internal cues. This has nothing to do with insulin. Any claim that it's all about insulin is wrong. If you want to stop overeating, stop binge eating, or break bad eating habits, then you can go to my website, seeingeaters.com. I have some free training there, and I'll show you how to break those bad habits once and for all. And if you want to speak with me personally, there is a link in the description box below. Don't forget to check out some of my other videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.